Domestic violence taking the life of a loving mother just hours before her divorce hearing. Good evening and welcome to 7 Action News at 11. I'm Carolyn Clifford.
And I'm Mike Duffy. Andrica McIntosh was shot and killed outside her home on Detroit's East Side Friday morning.
August 4th, 2023, a date circled on a calendar, a date planned for, a date filled, not with dread, but with the fragile possibility of a new beginning. For 35-year-old Andrica Sims, a mother of 7 in Michigan, this was the day the final legal ties would be severed, the day she was meant to walk away, free. But freedom never arrived. Instead, on that bright Friday morning, in the 6000 block of Gunston Street in Detroit, the future Andrica envisioned was stolen in a sudden violent act, the hope of that date shattered, replaced by something unimaginable. Andrica wasn't just a name in a headline, she was a life force, a dedicated mother, remembered by her family as good-hearted, caring, and giving. Someone who loved deeply, whose laugh echoed with her children, especially during shared moments like swimming at Metro Beach. She even had a background serving her community in law enforcement, someone who understood danger, who upheld the law. Yet, she became the victim of a brutal crime herself. The period when someone is trying to leave an abusive relationship is often the most dangerous time they will ever face. Have you ever known someone quietly planning their escape, hoping for safety? Or heard stories that make you wonder about the risks people face when they try to break free? The problem is clear: leaving isn't always the end of the danger. Sometimes, it marks the beginning of its most lethal phase. How did the very day meant to bring Andrica Sims freedom become the day her life was brutally taken, and what does this tell us about the deadliest phase of domestic violence? Understanding what happened to Andrica isn't just about recounting a tragedy, it's about recognizing the signs, understanding the risks, and potentially helping others avoid a similar fate. Stay with us as we unravel the events of that day and explore the critical lessons hidden within this devastating story. If you believe stories like Andrica's need to be heard to protect others, please give this video a like and share. Welcome to Whistles of True Crime, where we unveil the darkest mysteries and the most chilling true crime tales. If you crave real-life crime stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat, you are in the right place. Kindly subscribe to this channel now, and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss any of our new stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. This tragic story unfolded in Michigan, renowned for its Great Lakes shores and industrial strength. Yet, this state also grapples with significant violence. Data reveals concerning gun violence rates, exceeding the national average in 2023, a reality tragically present in communities like Detroit, where Andrica Sims' life was cut short. To understand the depth of the loss on August 4th, you first need to know Andrica Sims, the person. Forget the statistics, the case numbers for a moment. Andrica's world revolved around her 7 children. She was their center, their anchor. Her sister, Kanisha, called her simply, a good-hearted person who loved everybody. Her daughter, Sanaya, remembers her as very caring, lovable, open, and very giving. These weren't just words, they were lived moments. Simple, cherished times, like swimming together at Metro Beach, moments of pure connection between a mother and her child, far removed from the conflict that would later define her final day. These were the threads of the life she built, the love she poured into her family. But Andrica carried another layer of experience. She was a former sheriff's deputy and police officer. She had seen conflict. She understood the complexities of human behavior, the potential for danger that could exist, even in plain sight. This background wasn't just a past career, it likely shaped her awareness, perhaps giving her a unique insight into difficult situations others might miss. It adds a somber layer, knowing someone trained to handle dangerous situations ultimately faced one she could not escape. Despite the love for her children and her own resilience, Andrica was navigating turbulent waters in her personal life. The details were quiet, private struggles happening behind closed doors, but those closest to her knew she was determined to make a change. She was actively pursuing a legal separation, a divorce, and she was taking steps to increase her safety, reportedly seeking a personal protection order. She saw a path towards peace, a path away from difficulty, but as August 4th drew closer, the shadows were growing longer. She was taking crucial steps towards freedom, but was the danger she faced escalating even faster? Andrika's determination to find peace meant leaving a relationship that had become untenable. The path she chose was divorce from her husband, Breon McIntosh. This wasn't a simple parting of ways. Reports described the proceedings as very bitter. It was a contentious process, filled with conflict, a legal battle to regain her life. The date for finalization was set, Friday, August 4, 2023. This was it. The finish line was in sight. The hearing was scheduled for that morning, just 2 hours after the events that would unfold. 2 hours stood between Andrika and the legal confirmation of her freedom. The irony is chilling. The day meant to close one chapter became the day her story ended. Why was leaving so dangerous? The signs suggest a history of difficulty within the marriage. Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy later described the incident as an egregious example of what domestic violence looks like, a stark official statement. Even a future book about Andrika's story hints at a troubled past marked by abuse. Crucially, Andrika herself had taken proactive steps. She was in the process of obtaining a personal protection order. These weren't random actions. They were desperate attempts to build a shield against a threat she clearly recognized. Andrika was doing everything she could, navigating the legal system, seeking official protection, but the clock was counting down to that divorce hearing. The date that held so much promise also held immense risk. She was reaching for safety, but was the danger accelerating faster than she could escape? With the final moments of her troubled marriage approaching, the tension was at its peak. Friday, August 4, 2023, the morning of the divorce finalization, as the city of Detroit began its day, a different kind of morning was unfolding on the east side, specifically near the 6000 block of Gunston Street. It was around 7:53 a.m., a time when many are just starting their commutes or preparing for the day ahead. But here, near a construction site, an ordinary morning was about to become the scene of a nightmare. Witnesses or reports indicate a verbal altercation began between Andrika and Breon McIntosh. What was said, we may never fully know, but the words exchanged quickly became heated. The tension that had been building for months, perhaps years, reached a breaking point in those early morning minutes. Exactly how the confrontation escalated to physical violence has slightly differing accounts. One report suggests it began at Andrika's residence, where Breon was waiting, ambushing her as she attempted to leave. Another account indicates the confrontation started, then Andrika tried desperately to get away on foot, but Breon pursued her to the location on Gunston Street. Whether it started at her home or elsewhere, the outcome was the same. A moment of verbal conflict suddenly turned deadly. The confusion in these accounts only highlights the suddenness and terror of the attack. Then came a chilling detail that adds a visceral layer to the horror. One report alleges Andrika made a frantic call to 911. Imagine hearing her voice, trying to explain, stating she was being chased, that someone was shooting at her, a direct plea for help, broadcasting the extreme danger she was in, live. As it happened, Police Chief James White later confirmed a 911 call was received, and officers responded rapidly. They arrived swiftly at the location. As they approached, they could hear it, the unmistakable sound of gunfire, despite the desperate call. Despite the speed of the police response, help arrived too late to save Andrika. The sounds of the final, fatal shots echoed on Gunston Street. What happened in those terrifying final seconds? Responding to the urgent 911 call, law enforcement officers converged rapidly on Gunston Street. As Detroit Police Chief James White confirmed, officers arrived swiftly, even hearing the sounds of gunshots as they pulled into the area. The chaos of the attack was immediately apparent upon their arrival. The scene they encountered was tragic. Lying unresponsive in the roadway was Andrika Sims. Paramedics were called to the scene, but there was nothing they could do. They pronounced her dead right there. The worst fears were realized. The life Andrika was fighting for was gone. Then, officers located a figure standing nearby. It was Breon McIntosh, Andrika's husband, from whom she was seeking a divorce, and in his possession was a handgun. This chilling detail placed him directly at the scene, armed. Immediately following the shooting, Breon McIntosh was taken into custody by the police.
First at 11, deadly domestic violence taking the life of a loving mother just hours before her divorce hearing. Good evening and welcome to 7 Action News at 11. I'm Carolyn Clifford.
And I'm Mike Duffy. Andrica McIntosh was shot and killed outside her home on Detroit's east side Friday morning. Police say when they arrived, her husband was standing over her with a gun in his hand.
7 Action News reporter Brett Cast is outside the courthouse where the suspect was formally arraigned. Brett?
Well, on Friday morning, Andrica was set to have a court hearing for her divorce, and just hours before, she stopped at home to get a change of clothes. And that's when her then husband, she was trying to leave, allegedly showed up with a gun and killed her.
She just had a heart of gold.
A single tragedy that touches dozens of lives. A mother of 7 killed in the midst of seeking a divorce. The man now charged in her murder is her husband of 13 years.
She just had the biggest heart. And for him to just take her away from us is just, just sad.
Before 8 a.m. on Friday, 35-year-old Andrica McIntosh was shot and killed outside her Detroit home on Gunston Street. Police say when they arrived, they found 6 shell casings and her husband, 35-year-old Breon McIntosh, standing over her with a gun. The two shared 6 kids together, including their 13-year-old daughter, Sanaya McIntosh.
My mom, she was a very caring person. She loved everybody.
Sanaya holds on to the countless memories spent with her mom. They were supposed to see Barbie together on Saturday and spent many summer days at Metro Beach Pool.
All of my siblings was inside of the pool, and we all splashed at her to get in, and so she got in with us.
Andrica's murder is the 8th domestic homicide in Wayne County this year. There have also been a number of cases outside the city, most recently in Saline, where a woman was shot and killed by an ex-boyfriend outside her work.
We have a lot of people victimizing people that they at one point purported to love.
Detroit Police Chief James White says the city is also facing this issue.
When you talk about intimate partner violence, we're seeing a slight uptick, but the level of violence is up, right? Where it's going from assaults to fatality.
As Andrica's family grieves, they say her death could have been prevented and hope something will change so others don't go through the same thing.
It really needs to stop. It's crazy. I feel like these men is not thinking about the life that they're leaving behind. They're not thinking about their children when they take their mother.
Now, if you are in need of any assistance, we will have a link to some resources on our website, wxyz.com. Andrica's family has also launched a GoFundMe to help raise her 7 children. We'll have a link to that on our website as well.
Reports indicate he was apprehended without any reported resistance. The immediate crisis was over. The person allegedly responsible was detained. His presence at the scene, handgun still in hand, raises questions. Was it shock? Resignation? Awaiting the consequences? Remaining there after such a violent act is a detail that hints at the complex state of mind in the aftermath of a tragedy. The immediate aftermath brought 2 clear facts. A life was violently ended, and a suspect was in police custody. But the story didn't conclude on Gunston Street. The wheels of justice were just beginning to turn. What charges would be filed? How would the legal process unfold? And what does this stark scene reveal about the effectiveness of the very systems Andrica tried to use to protect herself? Do you think the police didn't show much efforts to save Andrica? Drop a comment below. In the immediate wake of Andrica's death, the legal system began to move swiftly. Based on the evidence gathered at the scene and the circumstances of the attack, Breon McIntosh was charged with extremely serious crimes. Premeditated first-degree murder and felony firearm possession. Just 2 days later, on Sunday, August 6, Breon McIntosh was arraigned in the 36th District Court. He entered a plea of not guilty to the charges. This formal step marked the beginning of the legal battle that would follow, setting the stage for court appearances and proceedings, starting with a probable cause conference and a preliminary examination scheduled for later that August. The decision to charge him with premeditated first-degree murder speaks to the authorities' view of the planning and intent behind the act. It is the most serious charge possible and underscores the gravity of what is alleged to have happened on Gunston Street. The not guilty plea means the case will continue, demanding further examination of the events.
She was a very caring person. She was lovable. She was open. She was very open, and she was very giving.
Her name was Andrica McIntosh.
She was a year younger than me. I love my little sister. She was just, her heart was everything.
It was after 7 o'clock Friday morning when Andrika was shot and killed in front of her home on Gunston near Connor on Detroit's east side.
There was a 911 call that the incident was happening, that a woman was being chased up the street and being shot at. The officers made record time getting there. They were in the area. As they approached, they could hear gunshots.
But they just couldn't get there in time.
He was actually standing over her with the gun in his hand. They ordered him to drop his weapon. He did. They immediately took him into custody.
The suspect, Andrika's soon-to-be ex-husband.
We don't know exactly what led up to it. We know that they were going through a divorce, and it was a very bitter divorce proceeding.
In fact, they were scheduled to be in court less than 2 hours after he allegedly killed her. A mother of 7 children, Andrika's family trying to focus on how she lived rather than how she died.
We would always go swimming. We love swimming. We love doing that. Metro Beach specifically.
She just didn't deserve it. She was a good-hearted person. She loved everybody.
On Detroit's east side, Camila Mary, Fox 2 News.
While the legal process began, Andrika's family was left grappling with an unimaginable loss. Her sister, Kenesha Williams, publicly shared her sorrow, remembering Andrika not by the way her life ended, but by how she lived, as a good-hearted person who loved everybody. Faced with the daunting task of caring for Andrika's 7 children and an adopted nephew with special needs, Kenesha Williams took action. She organized a GoFundMe campaign to provide support. The community's response was immediate and generous, raising over $14,000, surpassing the initial goal. It showed a wave of support for the family left behind. Andrika's daughter, Sanaya McIntosh, also shared her personal memories, recalling her mother as very caring, lovable, open, and very giving. These personal testaments are vital. They ensure Andrika is remembered for the love she gave and the life she lived, not just the tragedy she endured. The family's efforts to support the children and speak about Andrika highlight their resilience and commitment to honoring her. Andrika Sim's tragedy, while deeply personal to her family and loved ones, is not an isolated incident. Her death on the day of her divorce finalization shines a harsh light on a persistent and deadly problem in Detroit and across Michigan: domestic violence. Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy brought the scope of the crisis into sharp focus. She stated that Andrika's death was the 8th domestic violence homicide in Wayne County just that year, 2023, 8th, and Prosecutor Worthy specifically emphasized the particularly dangerous time for victims, when they attempt to leave abusive relationships. This recurring violence prompts urgent questions about prevention. There have been renewed calls for lawmakers in Michigan to take stronger action, specifically regarding convicted domestic abusers and their access to firearms. It highlights a critical area where current protections may be insufficient, a gap that can have lethal consequences. Statistics paint a concerning picture, with data from 2022 showing a significant number of domestic violence reports across the state. Some information indicates a concerning rise in rates within Detroit itself, with a disproportionate impact on Black women. This adds another layer of urgency to the need for focused intervention and support. Looking at the numbers, the patterns, and the heartbreaking individual stories like Andrika's, a question weighs heavily. How many more tragedies like Andrika's will it take before significant, systemic change occurs? Andrika's story, while devastating, holds crucial lessons for all of us. It underscores the importance of recognizing the signs of control, coercion, or abuse, even if they seem subtle at first. It highlights the absolute necessity of safety planning for anyone considering leaving a dangerous situation. Having a plan is not about causing trouble, it's about survival. It reminds us to support friends, family, or colleagues we suspect may be in danger, offering help without judgment, and it calls us to advocate for stronger protections and better resources. Help is available. Resources like Michigan's Domestic Violence Hotline exist to provide support and guidance. Remember earlier in Andrika's story, we mentioned she was in the process of seeking a personal protection order? Go back and listen to that detail again, keeping in mind what you've just heard about the heightened danger of leaving and the systemic issues at play. Understanding the context changes everything about that single, crucial step she was trying to take for her safety. Our hearts go out to Andrika's family and friends during this incredibly difficult time. We are deeply saddened by the loss of such a promising young woman and hope you find strength and comfort in the memories you shared with her. Her light will not be forgotten. Thank you for watching. If you crave to see more stories like this, where ordinary lives are shattered by extraordinary events, kindly subscribe to this channel, turn on the notification bell, so that you be the first to know when we drop our next video. More answers waiting to be discovered. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and above all, stay safe. See you on our next video.